Hello and welcome to the PhD Life Raft podcast. I'm Emma Brzezinski and today I am talking to the wonderful Dave Maslach. And we talk about his Reciprocity project, which is all about creating a supportive and encouraging community of scholars. We also talk about being the first person to go to university from your family and Dave's experience of that. And we talk about the importance of believing in yourself. So I do hope you enjoy the episode.
Hey, how are you, Emma?
I am very well, thank you. I was just saying there's the most beautiful rainbow outside of my window at the moment, which I'm taking as a good omen. Not that we need a good omen. We don't need a good omen, but I'm taking it as one anyway. Thank you so much for saying yes to this random woman who emailed you.
I'm all about these chance encounters. I think it's really wonderful.
But I came across your work. The work you do in terms of your YouTube videos and the information you put out online to support PhD students. And I was just really taken by the spirit of generosity in it. And then I found out about your Reciprocity project, which we're going to talk a bit more about in a minute. And I was like, even more like, this is fabulous. So I'm so pleased that you said yes to come and to talk about that with us. I always start these interviews, though, with asking people about their own experience of the PhD process and how they got to where they are now. So would you mind telling us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So thank you for letting me be part of your project as well. I think it's very cool. And I hope you keep this up. I think it's very a worthwhile endeavor. So if you don't know who I am, I'm an associate. So I'm Professor Dave Maslach. I'm associate professor of Innovation Strategy and Entrepreneurship. So I did my undergrad at the University of Waterloo in chemical engineering, and did some sociology as well. And then I did a master's in management science, which is kind of like an engineering thing, at the same university. So it's a kind of an engineering school. And then I did my doctorate in business administration at the Ivy Business School all in Canada. So I'm totally Canadian, born and raised. And then, I got a job at Florida State University, which I loved, wonderful people. And now I'm working here. And I'm not sure if you want to get into the whole process and everything like that in terms of what you're expecting with with the PhD journey and things like that.
Well, I'm fascinated that you did chemical engineering and sociology. That is a wild mixture. So that's your undergrad, and then went on to the doctorate in business administration, which is a bit of a shift. I wonder what was that process for you in terms of applying for that?
Cool. Yeah, so everybody thinks that there's a big shift, but I was always interested in people and how people sort of work and interact with technology and innovation. So, thinking about how people actually use technology and interact with technology has always been kind of an interesting thing, or a thing that I enjoy trying to understand. And so you kind of have to have an understanding. And so in my field of business administration, which is kind of like strategy and innovation, you have to understand like things like psychology and sociology, and as well as the technology themselves. So it's in the field itself, there's actually a lot of people that are engineers and then they do an MBA or something like that. And then they go and do a doctorate after that. So a lot of people in business schools that are professors in business schools, they tend to be a little bit older. This is kind of their second career. But for me, I was a youngin'. I just went straight through. I was always kind of curious, kind of intellectual person. I don't know why. There was nobody in my family that was. I mean, my dad. Neither of them went to. So my parents didn't complete high school. My mom did later on once I was in university. But my dad was always like this tinkerer, and he always was making things and building things. He's just kind of kind of an oddball person that way, like an inventor more than anything is what we'd call today. Not an innovator in terms of somebody that's actually going to go sell that stuff, but he was always building things for the household. I came from a large family with 5 kids.
Wow.
And so they had to make do. Like, it was just my dad working. And, my mom was CEO of the household.
Exactly. She was working, don't you?
Oh my gosh, she totally was. Yeah, I know. And now I look at it, I've got two little guys running around too. Well, they're older now, but it's a busy lifestyle. So, just the curiosity of doing something, and then also the challenge of how you kind of build up on in academia, where you're just kind of building things. It's a really exciting sort of position to be in, where you're always doing discovery. And I love the search and discovery aspect of it, where you're taking a deep dive, right?
Yeah. And I'm really interested. So I was the first person in my family to go to university, let alone do a PhD. I'm really interested in that story that you had. And how did you find that then, in terms of going off to do that and taking it to such a level? So your dad had given you this love of tinkering and experimenting. How was it to enter into that system?
Oh my God. It was like, so, being Canadian, Canada's huge. And I grew up north of Minnesota. So if you folks can imagine where that is, if you just go the middle of the United States and then drive straight north, and the coldest part in mainland United States is International Falls, Minnesota. And then we're like 2.5 hours north of that.
Okay.
So, like the winter times were -30, -40 on a fairly regular basis. And so there's very few people that live there. There's like 6,500 people that live there in the town that I grew up. And then, so we had to go to university. We had to go a long ways away. So the closest city is 4 hours away. So I had to go. I chose to go to, it's a pretty good, well-known university in Canada. And so I went there, and it's like 2 days drive to get there. So it was like really kind of daunting and scary. And, that definitely the emotional component of it is very real when you're going through it and sort of stumbling through things.
And I think I can certainly relate to, I just went to the other end of England, so I didn't really, it wasn't 2 days, although it did feel like it. But I think that sense of being the pioneer can be really invigorating. I felt, for me, it was very permission giving, because nobody really had an expectation of what I was going to do. It was kind of like, oh, Emma's off doing her thing. Didn't really know what that was, which actually was great. But I think that sense, so that could be really invigorating. But I think also you don't have that sense of understanding. The flip side of that is that you are finding this all out for yourself, and you do have to be really resourceful. And from what I know of you so far, which is very little, but I do get that sense of you being a very resourceful person, who will build support networks for yourself.
Yeah, so oddly enough, I wouldn't say that I'm that kind of person. I actually had to sort of develop that and grow that as I've been doing. Part of the Reciprocity project has been definitely part of that. But just knowing to actually get, I think I'm just that kind of person that just doesn't give up. And there is like some way to get around it. And I remember sort of breaking points in, both my undergrad, where I wasn't doing that well, kind of bombing grades and stuff like that. And then there was like a breaking point. And then I was like, I ought to get my act together. And then so I just spent all my time in the library and just studied nonstop for the last couple of years. And, there was definitely moments like that in all parts of what I was doing. And you just get to a point where you don't really care about, the sort of other aspects of life. And then you have to sort of, to accomplish it, you have to work pretty hard and to get there. And so, part of this resourcefulness is just kind of like, how am I going to actually, accomplish this thing? And what do you do to accomplish this thing? So
I love it. Well, I suppose if you're the sort of person who's going to drive 2 days to get to university, you're not going to give up easy, are you? It's a big commitment in so many ways.
Yeah, but the funny thing is like everybody that grew up in, so it's Dryden, Ontario, everybody that grew up there, they had to go away if they're going to go to university and stuff. And so I think it's not unusual.
Right.
To do that, but at the same time, I felt for me it was unusual and it's kind of a scary thing to do.
So you did that. You got those qualifications, and now you are working as a professor within the business school.
Yeah,
but you also have this kind of outreach program, if I could put it that way. So tell me a little bit about that in terms of how that came about.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, no. So the whole, you're talking about the Reciprocity project. Okay. So the way it worked out, I was just always struggling with writing, as you can imagine. Being kind of an engineering person, I'm not the best writer, and I can sort of put ideas together, but I can't sort of execute on some of those ideas. And so about a year or 2 years into my program, I was, or as an assistant professor, driving back, and we live 4 hours from, everything's 4 hours. We live 4 hours from Disney. So I have, a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old in the car driving back from going to Disney. And it was just me in the car. Because my wife was going to a conference in Disney around in Orlando at the time. So driving back, and I was like, man, this is a struggle, just kind of like, and then I realized, like, why can't I actually build something that could help other people out and allow them to, not struggle with this process and make it a lot more easier to not only write and become a better researcher, but to feel like part of a community. And I was like, oh, I could build this thing. So I go back and I can't, I kind of tucked it away, and I was thinking about it over months and months, and I just couldn't sleep. I know it's kind of weird. It's sort of a difficult thing to get it out of my mind. So I started doing it, and eventually I ended up building this software, which is it's a sharing economy editing software. It's kind of like a feedback software. So you imagine, so for those of you who are, most of you are probably academics or PhDs and researchers anyways that are doing this, but imagine the peer review process, but we sort of put it on a system or some sort of software where you interact with other people that are, editors, quote unquote editors, and they give you feedback on your work. And so what this allows you to do is tap into not only academic people, but, people like, single moms and single dads and stuff that are at home and they want to help out with scientists and researchers. This was really important for me because in my undergrad, my mom would sometimes help me, edit some of my work and stuff like that. And I thought, well, not everybody has a mom. So why can't we create something where it sort of mimics that process? And so as you interact with it, you get, credits and stuff as you help other people out. And then, I can build in, or we can build in different features to help people write. So, different machine learning algorithms and stuff like that to sort of help you write better and sort of make it part of the system. So I built this thing. I eventually was like, I couldn't get out of my mind, and I convinced my wife to help pay for this thing. And I got some contract developers. We built this thing, put it out on the internet, and there was absolutely nothing. There was like crickets. It was like I just totally didn't understand that aspect of no crap that we have to market this thing and get this thing out. So I was talking to a friend that was kind of in the industry, and he was like, why don't you just do YouTube videos about it? So I started doing YouTube videos, and eventually what I realized as I started doing these YouTube videos, and I was doing them a lot, I realized that the questions people were really wondering about and dealing with were, the things that you type on the internet and then you need help on. And a lot of it was, graduate students and researchers and professors are really struggling with things that were deeply profound to them. And really, a lot of it is kind of like, negative emotional things. And so I was like, well, let's address these things because nobody else is doing it. And so how can we tell people that they're normal, that they are, they're outstanding, remarkable people, and that to give them sort of belief in themselves again. Here is in academia, it's kind of a weird thing, right? We take in these amazingly bright and talented people, and then we put them through a system that's so rigorous that they just kind of lose faith in themselves. So why can't we, create a group or a community where we go on and, people are cheering other people on? And so that's why I started doing these YouTube videos and became sort of progressively more geared towards, cheering people on and giving them help and motivation and things like that. Because it is a tough process. Yeah.
Well, there was so much that I love about all of that. I think this whole thing about, as you say, about cheerleading, about support, about community, and bringing that, because people are so hungry for that. And I love this idea of reciprocity and of sharing, because as we all know, the peer review system as it stands is not necessarily generous spirited, encouraging, supportive. Actually, I know I have been in tears over feedback that I've got back, and actually it seems that what you're all about is about building, encouraging, because we all have got to learn. We're all on a journey, and that actually there's the sense of having a community of people there to build each other up truly excites me. I think that what a brilliant community to get involved in, really.
Thank you. Well, and the other thing is not necessarily like, I don't want to be that kind of motivational speaker and stuff like that. That's not what, but I want to show people like kind of what you're doing is just like, you could be a totally normal individual and just be a person that is just dealing with these things. And we kind of need outlets and how to actually deal with some of this stuff, because who do you turn to? Yeah. Right. If you turn to your colleagues and stuff, then you kind of sound like a whiner or something. But if you go to the internet and you type in, how do I deal with this kind of stuff? And somebody that's like, some random dude or random, person is just kind of telling you, it's just, you're totally normal. Everybody sort of has these emotions and stuff like this. If you just, take a step back and realize that you are, a remarkable, just amazing person, and you sort of detach from that, the more that you can do that, the more that you can deal with this stuff and know that there's other people out there that are just like you, that are just as messed up in a total disaster, but at the same time, just absolutely perfect.
That's the thing. I think it's about humanizing, isn't it? It's, we are not brains on sticks. We are people. There's a brilliant quote, which I'm going to awfully misquote now. It's like, we are feeling machines that think, not thinking machines that feel. And that kind of, we are feeling machines. And so we need to attend to that, because, on a biological level, if we don't attend to that, we can't think properly because our brains are flooded. So that's really important at that level. But I think, this sense of connection is what I really get from the videos that I say, this real generosity of spirit there, and encouraging that as a kind of, why can't academia be like that? Because there are so many gorgeous people in it. I'm sure lots of gorgeous people. I certainly do. And to be there for each other and cheerlead for each other. I think is fantastic. So I always ask a very unfair question, really, at the end, in terms of asking for a top tip for people to take away with them. So do you have a top tip for PhD students?
Absolutely. So first of all, I got 2 tips, I guess. First one is really, really try to have belief in yourself. You really can do this. This is something that a lot of people have done before you, and they're far from perfect. In fact, most of us are really we're messy.
Yeah.
And then, the second thing is go get a walk. Go for walks. Is the most miraculous thing you'll ever do is just going, when you have those moments where you're just like frustrated or almost in tears, just go for a walk. And for some reason, I don't know if it's because of evolution and this is what we did for most of our lives, way back when, thousands of years ago, but going for a walk is a miracle drug. It just totally changes who you are.
I love that. And you might see a rainbow. You see, that's why we had the rainbow. That's what it was all about. That was the gift of the universe today. Go for a walk, find the rainbow. Oh, Dave, I could talk to you for so much longer. It's been truly a joy. All the links we will have in the show notes so that people can find your Reciprocity project, because I'm sure they'll want to. We'll have the links to the YouTube channel too. Thank you so much for being here with us today, and thank you for the work that you are doing. And thank you all too for listening.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me join your podcast. It's a worthwhile endeavor. Again, keep doing it. It's going to feel a challenge, but really a lot of people do appreciate what you're doing, Emma. And then for the audience, you really can do this. This is not something that's outside of your fingertips at this moment. So just keep it up.